Hello, mate to Thrive Nation. It's another breathwork session, and 2020 was the year of the breath for me, where I started really getting into breathwork. And I've got a pioneer and entrepreneur and the founder of Elemental Wellness Studio and Elemental Rhythm Breathwork, Giovanni Bartolomeo. Hope I pronounced that correctly, Giovanni. But what a
Great.
privilege and a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Steve. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate having me on.
Yeah, you're a real pioneer, and I just love the rhythm and love the music. And I've done a deep dive into your socials and your website, and your authenticity comes through in the most incredible way. So, for those that are listening and those viewers on YouTube, we're going to be running a 5 minute breathwork session to some incredible beats and rhythm that Giovanni's going to take us through. So, stay listening to the show because and watching the show because I think it's going to be a really powerful session. His online presence is incredible with regards to just the music and the transformation that he's bringing in people. And one of the biggest things we speak about at Maters Drive, because I do a lot of corporate work, Giovanni, is this transformation of people, their thoughts, their actions, their habits, and their lifestyles. That it is one of sustainability, sustainable change. And I don't know if you know some of the stats, but people that lose weight will regain that weight. 80% will regain that weight, within 5 years and put on more kilograms. And that's just one of the areas of health in terms of weight gain. But people battle to sustain their transformation. And so I'm really keen to find out how breathwork helps people transform. And so that's the frame that I really want to start off with. And maybe you want to give us a short backstory. I probably missed out quite a lot there, but I'm really looking at breathwork from personal transformation, maybe even team transformation, having worked with a lot of excos at corporates and groups and clients and being a physician for 25 years. Transformation and change is such a fundamental part of life. So, yeah, give us a little story on the side in terms of how you got into this and what you've seen.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I'll try to make the story short. There's a lot of kind of inflection points, but I guess there was a point in my life where, I was a serial entrepreneur and I'd kind of grown up, being told that net worth and self-worth was the same. So if you wanted to be anything respectable, anything successful, you had to make money. And, that led me through a lot of trials and tribulations, just trying to figure that out as an entrepreneur. But eventually I started making a little bit of money, enough to feel comfortable. And every time I'd make some money, I wouldn't feel any different. It was the same kind of thing. Maybe like 24 hours of excitement and then back to like, what's next? And I was like, man, this this is not the answer. And I remember very clearly, and I've become spiritual over the years, more spiritual than I was before, because I was more focused on money and didn't really have as much time, go to church and say my prayers and when I had to, and whatever. I was sitting at the edge of my bed and I kind of was looking at my hands, and I had this like vision of these old wrinkly hands, reminding me of like my grandfather's hands. And this kind of voice came into my head. I don't know if it was my imagination, if it was God speaking to me, if it was my higher self, whatever. Doesn't really matter. But the end of the story was basically um, I was going to wake up in 40, 50, 60 years from now out of that same bed, doing the same thing I'm doing now, going to work, coming back, going on vacation, driving a fancy car. That wasn't that fancy, but anyways. And your life is going to pass you by, and you wake up one day, you're going to look back, and you're like, what did I do that really mattered? Who gives a crap about you, your life, and anything? And it was the first time I realized what it felt like to be unfulfilled, because I was always so outwardly driven, where I had my sights set on what I need to do next and hustle and all this stuff. And then I realized I was compensating for this feeling of unfulfillment by this outward drive to just be busy all the time. And from there, I couldn't unsee it. I couldn't unfeel it. Everything I did, it was just like, wow, this is so unfilling. It took me a while to put the word to the feeling. Like at first, it was just I felt this emptiness, but it was just unfulfillment. And and that kind of led me on a journey, because up until then, any kind of problem I was faced with in the business world, I was a good problem solver. I could use my brain power to figure things out, figure my way out of something, figure out how to complete something. But this, I had no answers. And it kind of led me on a more of an inward journey to kind of seek inward to try to find answers. So, I started reading different philosophies, textbooks, all this stuff, tried plant medicine, went down to South America, drank ayahuasca, and all these things were like huge transformational shifts, especially plant medicine. And I realized that after that, when I came back, like there was some bigger changes that had to be made in my life. And one of the things I realized in South America was that I knew nothing about anything. I thought I was really smart and had all these answers, but I was really had no clue what was going on. And so that led me to start, looking at things differently, meeting new people, opening myself up to different health practices, whether it was fasting or meditation. And I started talking to people. I started a podcast way back in the day. And at the time, I was just hosting these little get-togethers where I would invite people to come and talk about different things, biohacking or whatever. And we play videos of people who were doing something different. Someone was inspirational. And I found this video of a guy named Wim Hof. And so if you hear the fire in the background, my fireplace is cooking. It's still cold in Canada, so you might hear a pop here and there. It's a fire. I found this guy, Wim Hof. And I remember watching this video of he's doing all these crazy things. You familiar with the Iceman, Wim Hof?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and I told my wife, I showed her the video, I'm like, I'm gonna meet this guy one day, and she's like, yeah, you're crazy. And my wife knows that I'm pretty crazy. And within a year, he was at my place in Toronto and we were hanging out. And, I had maybe a couple of years, we'd become somewhat friends, I would say. And he invited me to do a training down in Colorado for the first time, the first US training that they did. And I had no clue what breathwork was. I didn't really practice it. I didn't really believe in it because I didn't really know. I did his method and it would make me feel a little bit different, which was awesome, the physiological changes. But that was it, and I was, just curious enough to go want to meet Wim. And I really wanted to take a picture with Wim on top of a mountain in my shorts. Like that was more important to me at that time. And when I got to the training, it was probably about 40 people. We're in this huge log cabin. And they start going around telling their story of why they're there. And person after person is talking about how, daily breath work, spending time in nature and cold exposure transformed their life. So like addiction, depression, anxiety, physical changes and healing, like thing after thing after thing that I was just like, wow, like well, I feel like an imposter because I didn't really know I was going there, but it just like something went off, like, wow, there's something really to this stuff. And it came to me and I just shared, I'm kind of just here for the experience. I really don't know why I'm here. But as the week went on, he led us on this deeper breathwork journey. And in that session, but by that time at the end of the week, after jumping in frozen lakes and climbing, I was just going to do whatever Wim said. So he leads us on this breathing session. He's playing a drum and the rhythm of the drum and his voice, and just like getting us to breathe deeper and faster and like all of these things. And all of a sudden, I felt this rush of energy come over my body, like vibration, and kind of scared me at first, but I just said, okay, just surrender into it, kept going. And next thing I knew, I was having an out of body experience. I was floating around the top of this like 20-foot ceiling, looking down at myself. And it scared me. It was like I thought I died. They didn't understand what was going on. And I remember snapping back into my body, I think because I was scared. And all of a sudden feeling this uncontrollable feeling to cry. And I didn't want to cry at first because, all these competitive guys, I'm a macho man, whatever. And I just said, whatever. And I just cried. And I cried like I hadn't cried since I was a young kid. Like, when you're tears and booger, like you just don't care. You're just like letting it out. And it was like such a cathartic experience. And the thought that was coming to my mind was like, it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to not be the most successful. It's okay to not put all this pressure on yourself to take care of your family and your parents and win and do all these things. Like, it's okay. Just don't worry about it. And it felt so good. Like I was almost having a therapy session with myself. You know what I mean? And I never really went to therapy before, but there was something fascinating about that experience where I was able to release emotions, but also there was an insight that was coming through at the same time. And so I came back to Toronto and I was a Wim Hof instructor and I started doing that and leading sessions, but I was really curious about that experience. Like what was that I'd experienced? And I wanted to dive deeper into that. So I just really was like trying to find anyone I could. It's probably like 2015-ish. And breathwork wasn't really that popular or available, or I didn't know where to find it at that time. And I was just trying to find anyone who knew anything about breathwork, whether it's Kundalini or pranayama or transformation or holotropic. I would just get a session done, ask them to teach me, learning about it. And I started working towards getting myself back into that space. And for me, when it really clicked was when I used the rhythm of the music to start breathing with like syncing the breath. I was able to drop real deep, really fast, and then combining some specific meditations because I realized that once I was getting there, I was in this very open space. And after doing some research, science shows that the brain waves start to change when you do breath work, especially rhythmic breathing, and you go from like beta to alpha, even theta, which is a highly suggestible state. The prefrontal cortex, default mode network, kind of quiets down a little bit, where the ruminating mind, we're always analyzing, so it allows you to go deeper into the subconscious mind, and that's where we were doing the work, and like really using some mantras or specific meditations, or even our coaching program is trying to, which is going to be a perfect segue to what you talked about earlier, is trying to find out where your beliefs come from and how to really see the truth and reprogram them to something that is more serving versus something that you believe to be true based on something you may have experienced years ago that you're still holding on to be safe, which is kind of like where the beliefs go. So that's how I got into it. And I just started create this method and just started sharing it with like some friends, and they were having these experiences. And then I had a class that kind of got busy. Then I did a crazy thing and opened like a studio, a wellness studio in Toronto that, I had for 7 years. And it just started kind of like, the vibration that was giving off was attracting people. They're having these experiences. And a lot of them would say things like, it was just as powerful as a plant medicine ceremony, or if not, or I did like 10 years of therapy and I got more in like one session. Then I've gotten like, learned about myself, like crazy things like that. We've seen like spontaneous healings, which is all woo-woo crazy stuff to me, which I would never even think it was possible before, but we've seen these things happen, and we're still like, I obviously have ideas and reading things like biology of belief and different kinds of like how the body keeps a score, the nervous system in relation to like, your thoughts and your emotional body. You start seeing like things happening, and like I can't explain the mechanism exactly how it works, but I've seen people and heard their stories of what happened and what happened afterwards, which is kind of undeniable for me. And so that was going on for a while. Then once COVID hit, people said, okay, now you got to teach me how to do this. They wanted to learn how to do that. And I didn't know, I wasn't a teacher. I never really meant this to be a business. It was kind of like just this organic thing that was unfolding. And to be honest, at first, the reaction was like, man, this is my like competitive advantage. This is my unique thing. If I start sharing it with everyone, then it's not going to be me anymore. It's like the business mind speaking. And so I went to go meditate on it, and it was really obvious that like one of my missions became, after I started getting into this space, was to just try to help as many people as possible. And it was very clear that you can't do breath work for everyone in the world. Like you have to teach people. Let it go. Just let whatever needs to happen. Just teach people how to do it. And so I told them, show up next week, bring your notebook, and we're going to figure this out. Like I didn't have a manual or anything like that. We kind of was created in that first training with some of our staff. And the thing that kind of shocked me the most, or wasn't expecting, was as they were practicing with their friends and family, they were coming back and sharing these stories. Like one guy was like, yeah, I connected with my dad for the first time in my life, where we both cried together and talked about forgiveness and, said sorry for things that we had done. And like the way that made me feel in that moment was like 100% like affirmation that this is the way you need to go. You know what I mean? Like this thing is gonna ripple out. And now we have probably like 400 facilitators around the world that are doing elemental rhythm breath work, and it's just been like the most amazing experience for me to build this community, to connect with people, to help, which was so different from the old business mind, which is all about like winning, competition, like can I make an extra buck, like negotiating. It was just like a totally different mindset. So yeah, I don't know if that was a little bit longer than you wanted, but that's kind of the story how I got in and what kind of brought me to where we are now.
Great story, and it almost seems like you went from pain to purpose once again. Just, I don't know, obviously God spoke to you, that's the way I see it, and you started making some changes, and someone really started questioning your beliefs, and you went on the road and just ran with it. So well done to you for being brave and courageous in that process. In terms of transformation, let's talk about two possible avatars that I know you have a lot of testimonials on your website you've mentioned, but some, let's go for an avatar, a corporate executive that's struggling, kids, very busy at work, trying to fit in exercise, trying to fit in biohacking, look after their health, playing hard, working hard. Give us a sort of, what breathwork, rhythmical breathwork has done for someone like that, because I think it's important that people can relate to a story I say it's free. Obviously, it takes your time, but breathwork goes wherever you go. And I mean, a lot of the biohacks, you have to spend money and, the devices and there is a place for that. But I mean, I don't think there can be something more ancestrally wise that's just part of humanity in terms of breath. So give us a story in terms of the rhythmical breathwork part of someone who's changed their lives.
Yeah. Um, and there's a lot of ways to answer this question, but breathwork's like a blanket term, and we don't just teach rhythmic breathing. We teach breathing fundamentals and different styles of breathing. And you can use your breath to support your nervous system, to wind things down, to help you get calm and clarity and stuff like that, all the way to these deeper kind of like almost mystical experiences and a lot in between, right? And like just to piggyback on what you're saying, like it's the most cost effective, impactful, um, tried and tested, biohack that ever existed, in my opinion. And we've seen the craziest transformations and people just changing their breathing mechanics, and people that overbreathe, especially when they get into chronic hyperventilation, which a lot of people who are high stress, they breathe shallow, they're always in fight or flight mode, they're sending that nervous signal to the nervous system all the time. And by over breathing, they're creating all of these unintended side effects like poor sleep, high blood pressure, poor digestion, even like things like diabetes, dehydration, all these things, almost like one of those funny like side effects commercials you see like sometimes when you're, I don't know if they have them down where you are, but in the States, every other commercial is like drug advertisement. Side effects may include, they list like half the commercials is the side effects. Those same side effects happen when people are overbreathing, especially chronic hyperventilation. So, for an executive, the first thing that we like to do is check on the mechanics, like breathing through their nose, building their CO2 tolerance up, breathing into their diaphragm. So bringing them into a state of like calm so that when they're under pressure, their mind is not going to be racing as much and they can make decisions clearly. Okay. And that takes some practice, building up CO2 tolerance. But, at the same time, as we work with them a little bit longer, we really want to get down to see where their beliefs are, because that's what's causing your body to go into that high stress state. There's a layer of belief underneath. Right. So, from my perspective, the human experience, like the intellectual, I guess, experience, or like how we experience is there's a layer of beliefs at the base. And the beliefs are formed through your experiences in life when you grow up, the house you grow up in, your family, what we see, what we hear, what we experience, whether it's something really quickly that's impactful or something that kind of is repeated over time. Then we have our thoughts, and our thoughts is usually something happens, and then based on our beliefs, we'll make up thoughts about it. Is that good? Is that bad? What does that mean? Am I in danger? Like we think about the situation. Then, based on what we think, we'll have an emotional reaction, which is like the result of our thoughts, depending on what we discern this experience to be. And then finally, we'll act, react, flight, fight, freeze. One of those things is going to happen, right? So if you can get down to the belief level and we can identify where those core beliefs or limiting beliefs come from, we can transform that whole ladder. And so, someone who is in the corporate world that's a perfectionist may have had, a parent or something happen like way in the beginning that's caused them that if I'm not perfect, I'm going to lose, I'm going to fail, I'm going to be in trouble, I'm going to be whatever, which is not the case anymore, but it drives them like subconsciously to be the way they are, right? And so with the rhythmic breathing, we can actually help them to kind of go back to those like earlier beliefs. And that once you see them, then you can kind of change them, because you can reprogram any belief, right? So reprogramming is like strong emotion, repetition, visualization is the best and fastest way to reprogram anything. So a lot of our breath works will take them through the breathing experience, kind of open them up, then we'll bring them to a meditation where they can go back. Remember a time when you felt this way, or remember an earlier version of yourself. What's going on? Okay, like forgive yourself. See the opposite to be true. So we have different kind of layers of the different experiences after. But that in itself is like how we can create like real long lasting change, is when we can start working towards the beliefs. Now, it's best done with a coach. We have some tracks online that can do that, but it also will open the awareness for them to explore within themselves. They can do the breath work and then just like start seeing like, okay, like where does this belief come from? There's like about 20 core beliefs. When you whittle them all down, there's about 20. Like I'm not good enough, I'm alone, I'm unsafe, I'm abandoned. And most people have a version of that that dictates the way they are. So a lot of entrepreneurs will probably have like I'm unseen, or I'm unsafe is very common as well. So I'm unseen, they never got attention. Now they're trying to prove that or I'm unheard. They want people to see them because they were never seen before, and the way they do that is by being successful. Same thing about safety. You know, they feel unsafe if they don't have money. Now, if I have a lot of money, I can build a castle, I can have security, I can have like all of these things, and these things will drive people. You know, like a really good friend of mine, his dad was not around that much growing up. His dad was very successful, and I know the son always looked up to him, but the father would never give him like the validation, would never say good job. And so that created wanting to prove himself, wanting to be seen, wanting to be heard, and I'm not good enough, core belief. What happens? You know, like over the years talking to him, it's like, yeah, all I want to do is make this much money. But it's never enough. You get to that plateau, and then you look to the next one, the next one. You see people have done like better than like 99% of the people in the world. You know, like I remember hearing a story of a billionaire that went from 4 billion to 2 billion in a crash and committed suicide. You know,
Yeah.
he lost half his net worth. He's still the most richest guy in the world by far, you know, that top percentile. But his belief was like, I'm a failure. You know, like his peers around him were looking at him as a failure, or he lost this much or whatever. So so that's what kind of the breathwork can do, can kind of start helping you to start getting clarity. And then there's another thing with the rhythmic breathing also for entrepreneurs or people in business, that you go into this like state, I think it's called transient hypofrontality, where it's like this ultra creative state where you go into like a flow state almost. You know, you can write questions down before, but you go into there and then you're able to see things or solutions that you couldn't previously see before, or ideas that you didn't have before. And so many times when I'm doing breath work, like these ideas will come into my head. I don't know where they come from. I don't know if they're buried somewhere in my mind, or if it's my higher self or the universe is dropping me kind of like Easter eggs saying, here you go, buddy, here's one for you. But a lot of like this business and the design of like the courses and the breathwork style came from me doing breathwork and getting these ideas on how to like make it better, how to improve it. You know, the music, the tempo, you know, the meditations, all that kind of stuff. And so we find that people that do breathwork regularly, you know, they'll get into space a lot more, and they'll be able to kind of like have this spaciousness in which they can kind of really take some time to reflect and make better decisions. Because one thing I've noticed in that avatar you explained, which is who I was, is I was so busy all the time. If I had 5 minutes, I'd try to be productive and do something else. So I never created space to be creative. I never created space to really think and contemplate about, you know, what do I really want to create? How do I want to kind of show up in my work or my job or my business? And if we don't have that time to sit back and pause, we're never going to be able to really put effort into creation, which is what we're all creators. We have the ability to create our lives, things we want. But if we don't give ourselves that space to be the creator, we're just going to be in the hamster wheel and just do things, put out fires, and ultimately become what we think everyone else wants us to be, because we don't really think about how we really want to feel or act ourselves. So
There's a lot there.
that's
And let's talk about that avatar. Like, do you find that people will find their flow state, they'll find their why, you know, just like you went from pain to purpose, and, you know, you just realize, hang on, actually, it's all empty. I reach a goal and achieve success, inverted commas, but I've got to keep going and it's never enough. Now, do you find that people often, you know, resign from their corporate position, or they find meaning in their corporate position, or they slow down and put boundaries in? Because at the end of the day, you know, taking a lot of these business owners, these influential people that we're spending a lot of time with, we want to get them to a place of self-actualization through growth and self-awareness and purpose and identity, in those places where they can reach flow and sort of express those very important elements of life. Is we see less burnout and less tiredness, fatigue, sickness, disease. So focusing on that almost repels or replaces dis-ease, and I think that's fundamentally important. So what has been sort of the prototype in terms of the change that you've seen? Because it is about transformation that I see, that you're not just doing rhythmical breath work for the sake of calming the nervous system down and, you know, just getting into parasympathetic flow and dealing with distress. You know, you have a greater purpose there with the meditation and the visualization, from what I can see.
mhm. Yeah, so the first thing we usually notice is that people will be less stressed. So they'll sleep better. Their heart rate will probably go down. Their blood pressure goes down sometimes, and they're gonna feel less stressed which allows them to see like the benefit in going further with this. So a lot of time they have that aha moment, which is the thing I love about breathwork. Within one session, people know if it works or not, and usually they're going to feel different within one session. Most people, right? It's not like exercise or a diet or something that takes a long time to start seeing results or feeling different, right? This is like one session people feel different. So first thing a lot of them notice is the stress level goes down, and that spaciousness I was talking about, even like their mind to stop for 5 minutes is like something they haven't really experienced in either a very long time or ever, right? And that again is like creates a spark for them to want to continue to pursue that further. I think the biggest fear, which also goes back to we're talking about beliefs, is why they're working so hard, is that if I do this, I'm going to change. I'm not going to be successful anymore. If I change what I'm doing, if I try something different, like the breath work, I see Gio, he wears a funny hat, he's on the beach in Costa Rica. I'm living my best life, but they might see that as like their biggest fear. It's like, oh, I'm gonna lose my drive, losing their drive and their tenacity, that fierceness. Or even plant medicine. A lot of people, when we talk about like ayahuasca, they're afraid to do it, although they have so many issues and so much stress and all this stuff, they won't do it because they're worried that they're gonna lose their edge and they're not gonna be able to make money. That's their biggest fear. But the opposite is actually quite true because what they don't realize is they're not going to lose all of those amazing skills that they learned to defend themselves, to protect themselves, to be smarter, to be a problem solver, that work ethic. They're not going to lose any of that. Those are for life. Once you learn all those things, you have them for life. But now you may see how to use it in a different way, or you may not need to be driven from this kind of like wounded place or desire, which you're usually unaware of, but more from a place of passion and balance and flow. And that's kind of where the awareness comes in, where they start seeing like, actually, hey, like I feel different now. I have one doctor that became a facilitator, and she actually went the path of plant medicine because she was working in a pain clinic. She had a lot of people that came in, really stressed, chronic pain, stuff like that. And she started seeing similarities in herself. And she's like, if I don't change something, I'm going to die in the next 10 years. Like she kind of had this kind of realization. So she goes down to South America, she does the plant medicine, and nothing happens, And she was just so like control freak type A, that she was almost blocking that experience of that psychedelic kind of therapy, I guess you want to call it. But she did experience breath work, and she came back and she started doing breath work every day. Within a month of doing breath work every day, her blood pressure went down, her heart rate went down, her stress levels went down. She started sleeping again. Okay. And then she was like, okay, like transformation is possible. I feel different. I have this new clarity through which I can see my life, through which I can make decisions. And since then, she's become a breathwork facilitator and has continued to evolve where she no longer takes blood pressure medication. She sleeps well. She's starting to change her practice. They actually stopped using general anesthetic in her pain clinic, and they only use localized now because they get their patients to do breathwork before treatments. And all these incredible changes. But it all started with her just starting to do the breath work and starting to feel the physiological changes, but then also the mental clarity that comes with it.
Sure. Powerful story. And well done. You must be living quite a content filled life and satisfied life. There's a peace and just even your voice resonates at a very healing frequency. So well done to you. Maybe you can just
Thank you, brother.
explore, and we'll go through breath work and that at the end, but how important is cold? We haven't covered much in terms of the podcast after 200 shows, but obviously that was the gateway for you. Plant medicine can be the gateway. I've just done a podcast on psilocybin. I mean, we've probably done 5. We've got a psychiatrist who sits on the scientific advisory board, and he's very well versed in psychedelics. So they're all different routes. But tell us a bit about cold and why, with that, with breath work, the Wim Hof, method is so important for certain individuals or certain peoples, or maybe it's important for everyone sometime in their journey.
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of research coming out now, and there's a lot of like, I guess, what you would call like contra research, like a big debate. Is cold good? Like, what does it actually do? Like for recovery, for all these things. The one thing that I'm very confident about is for mental health. And in the morning, taking a cold shower or an ice bath, it really will give you a shot of like norepinephrine, which creates focus and clarity, and it'll release a bunch of endorphins in your body, so make you feel happier and more positive. And like that's hands down what I've seen transform people's lives. Just whether it's a cold shower or an ice bath every day, the mood shift that you get from that, and it lasts usually throughout the day, if not 24 hours. On top of that, like inflammation markers go down, white blood cells go up. They say the immune system gets stronger. Metabolism, 200 to 500% increase metabolism today. Obviously, the cold, your body's kind of kicking in. White fat transferring more into brown fat, which also creates heat in the body. All these other things that the physical research on the physical side is kind of like catching up. Some people say like, hey, you're putting too much stress on the body. How much ice is enough? Is it different for men and women, different stages, different ages? There's a lot more complexity coming to the general research. But the one thing that I know for sure is that mood shift is undeniable. And a lot of people that I've shared with, I've shared ice baths with and trained, I've seen like a significant shift in the way they felt, their mood, their outlook when they would do cold and when they wouldn't in the morning. Now, it's not fun. It's uncomfortable. But that's how kind of like the body grows and adapts, right? If anything, once it gets too comfortable and easy, your gains start to diminish, right? Whether it's working out or any kind of thing where you kind of have hormesis in there. It's about a stressor that's not too strong, that's going to hurt you enough that your body has to kind of respond to it. And so that
Sorry, so
was
is it not the breath work and the cold together? That's the key. Like when you went down to Wim Hof and that happened, the cold is one aspect, but the cold and the breath work together.
So that's, in my opinion, not completely proven as like needs to happen, right? So my perspective on the breath work in the cold is, one, when you do the breath work, your focus, you can like, increase focus, but also over breathing can make you feel colder in some situations, right? Also, when you do the breathing, it kind of will also like spike some adrenaline depending on how you breathe. Like the Wim Hof method is like huffing and puffing, what you're doing is some adrenaline, so you're more excited to go into cold water. Also, getting your body into that state that's repeatable, so it knows kind of what's happening, so like you prime it for this repeatable experience, kind of train it every day, almost like Pavlov's theory. So he's doing this, the body's getting ready. But I think cold is actually all about mindset. It's all about mindset, because I don't have to do breath work and I can hop in the cold and I can like just no problem, because I'm really in tune with my body now because I've done it so much. What's actually more important is how you breathe when you get in the ice. So when you go in the ice, it's going to send a signal to the body. It's like danger, like get out of here. And you're going to feel, especially the first time, what happens? Your breath gets taken away. So you're going to like have trouble breathing, and the body's kind of like panicking. And what you want to do is you want to calm it down, and you want to slow down your exhale and let the body know like, hey, like this is safe. I'm okay. This is just what cold feels like. And you send that signal, and then eventually the body's going to recognize that, hey, like you're not in danger. You're actually very safe. And what that trains you to do is to maintain control in high stress environments, which you can do anywhere. When kind of thing goes off, hey, I can control this through just controlling my breath. Because when you overbreathe, your mind starts getting like all over the place, racing thoughts. When you increase frequency of breath, it can like increase, your thoughts. When you slow down your breath, it will slow down and also slow down your heart rate. You don't want to hold your breath in water. You don't want to hyperventilate in water either, because you can pass out. It's very dangerous to do either of those things in water. But by slowing your breathing down, you're going to notice after a couple of breaths, your whole body's going to relax. It's going to be like, okay, like I can do this. So if you can get past that first 30 seconds, it sends that signal to the body. Nervous system like, okay, we're safe here. We can do this. So, I'll do like 1 to 2 minutes every morning. I got an ice bath here in my, my back kind of studio here. I put a sauna, ice bath. Sauna usually is saving the nights. Ice bath we should do first thing in the morning. It's become part of my routine. I drink way less coffee than I used to since I started doing ice baths. I just don't need it anymore. I get the stimulation, and I'm ready to go.
Wow.
And the norepinephrine is great. The focus side of it too.
Brilliant. And then the plant medicine and the breathwork together, that seems to be a gateway for some people. And I know you're a breathwork. We're going to talk about rhythm and music, and you obviously done a lot of work there. But it seems like a lot of these interventions can be, optimized or improved through breathwork. Do you feel the same with, things like plant medicine?
I think that breath work can work with anything, not in the exact session itself, like doing it simultaneously, like we've experimented with microdosing psychedelics and doing breath work, like it'll enhance it. But I think where it really helps is like after the experience, like the integration phase, is like going deeper, continuing that journey. Because a lot of experience I've had with plant medicine, and I work at a center. I guess speak at a center in Costa Rica a few times a year, and I see like the most craziest transformations. But some people it sticks, and some people it drops off. And it's really like what's the environment you're going back into, and not just your physical environment, the work environment, your mental environment, the food environment, like all these things. Like, are you going back to what got you here in the first place, or are you able to make changes? Are you able to see the change you need to make? And how are you keeping that awareness beyond your 7-day retreat or your 1-day session where you go to a clinic or whatever? It's like really that's where you got to kind of integrate whatever the insights came up. And some people, something comes up or they'll change a belief. I see that happen a lot where something they believed about themselves changes, we talked about earlier, then automatically the ripple effect will happen, right? But sometimes not. Things will come up and there needs more processing integration. And that's where I think breathwork comes in. So do you need plant medicine? No. Is it an amazing tool? Absolutely. Like, and I think it's relatively safe. And I've seen it, with my own eyes, incredible transformations. I brought my mom to drink ayahuasca. I brought my brothers to drink ayahuasca. Like I'm a big advocate. I even made a documentary about it, back in the day where, I just wanted to share that experience, but it's not the only way. And I think breathwork is a very, effective and viable tool for self-discovery, self-awareness, and transformation.
Brilliant. And now your speciality, where you spent a lot of time, just the music and the rhythm and the frequency, how does that sort of accentuate and go, help people go to deeper levels, try and tap into the subconscious? What is it about the rhythm and the frequency?
Yeah, so what studies have found is that rhythmic breathing actually will help shift the brain waves from, again, that beta state, which is like everyday waking kind of like active mind, to alpha and even theta, which they say is usually when you wake up in the morning and before you go to bed. It's the most suggestible state, because this active part of the mind is kind of out of the way, the defense mechanism. And the music also gets people kind of emotionally involved as well. So they feel a sense of emotion coming up, and for reprogramming and going deeper, like that, being in connection with your emotion, really plays a role in that kind of like visualization and embodiment. And a lot of people that have done breath work start saying, I started feeling for the first time. I was so numb. I was just going through the motions. I was working or whatever. I was able to feel again. So those two things combined. Also, nose breathing is interesting because some of the breath works they'll do like mouth breathing only for these deeper journeys. We like to do nose breathing for a few reasons. One, because it helps to keep the nervous system a bit more in balance than just mouth breathing. But also, studies have shown that nose breathing will actually create more connection in the right and left hemisphere, more activity versus just mouth breathing alone. So the different parts of the brain will light up and there'll be more connectivity. So there's a lot of things going on in the brain while this goes on. And I also think what could be happening in some cases is, and this would be probably a little bit scientific, when we're breathing, right? So what triggers us to breathe is actually has nothing to do with oxygen, it's our carbon dioxide levels, right? And carbon dioxide is important because carbon dioxide is what delivers oxygen to your muscles, your organs, your brain. And so when you're over breathing, what happens is the red blood cells will hold on, it'll bind, the hemoglobin will bind all the oxygen. So your blood gets oxygen rich, but the rest of your body's losing oxygen. That's why when you have a panic attack or whatever, your legs are shaky, your muscles are shaky because there's no oxygen going there. And I think in breath work, the same thing is happening. So some facilities will say, "Oh, you're oxygenating your body and your brain." You're actually doing the opposite. You're not allowing that much oxygen to go there, and your body can go into like this kind of near-death experience where some people will even believe it releases DMT in the brain. Like if you've heard like dimethyltryptamine, it's a psychedelic, but it's found in the body as well. And they say like at birth and death, there's a whole documentary about the spirit molecule, and they say like that could be what creates some of these visuals. Some people will see colors or patterns or have like almost like a very vivid memory come up. And I think it's allowing us to access different parts of the brain in that way, and that's what makes it like really transformational.
Yeah.
So we found combining these things together, and we're always like experimenting with like binaural beats and different kind of frequencies, like in the headphones, to see what happens with the brain and what creates the best results. And usually for me, results is people coming back a month later and telling me their life has changed, right? Like they've been doing the breathwork daily and they notice a noticeable shift, right? Like you can read all the science textbooks in the world, but really only change matters if you actually experience it, right? You can do
Powerful.
these things, you know. So,
And do people use
so
their
yeah, so
own
that's
like
kind of
music, or do they use your music, or is there a certain rhythm that they got to take? I mean, obviously, we're going to put the links to your website and the programs they can
yeah.
do. Is
So
the rhythm important?
the rhythm is important, but it's not unique to us. You know, like any kind of rhythmic breathing where they can kind of get into a pattern where they're kind of like just repeating it over and over starts kind of getting this like almost like entrainment, you know, where it's like the rhythm is kind of like starting to shift things within you. So I found it easier doing it to music because I could follow something along rather than just trying to breathe my own way, where some of the other practices I tried, I just would get lost. I'd start breathing a bit, kind of like doze off or, you know, forget where I was, where the rhythm of the music really kind of helps to keep things pumping, so to speak.
Brilliant. So I think sort of coming to the end of the show, just to do this exercise, the two of us and share the music, and then we'll put the links in place. But I do want to know, like from a child perspective, do you do this with your children? Is it like what age can you do it? Is there any sort of risk doing it with a 90-year-old? And do you sort of grade it? Is this where you become a facilitator and realize, hang on, the most important grade one, is make sure you breathe through your nose, the diaphragm, expand the chest, nice and slow. I mean, I think what you said about the Bohr effect of making sure that you just breathe slowly, and we had Patrick McEwen on the show as well. And I mean, it's just people think this huge deep breath, and it's actually not this. It's slow and
Mhm.
it's light and it's rhythmical.
Mhm.
When do you start? And in terms of the older age group, how important is that?
So I think at any age, it's important to focus on breathing mechanics. I'm always telling my kids to breathe through their nose and breathe in their belly and be aware of their breath. But they're kids, right? Their attention span is it's hard. So I don't want it to also be a chore and them to hate like doing breath work. So every once in a while, we'll do a little bit of breathing together, you know. And it depends really on your relationship with your kids, but it's a really great way to bond. And even if it's just like a 5 minute breath work, you're both going to feel a lot better afterwards.
Mm.
And you can listen to a track online, you can find something on YouTube. But I've been breathing with my kids and throwing them in ice water since they were, young kids, and they actually are like the ice water better because it's more of an event and they want to show off and jump in and jump out. Um, and even up to like old age as well. Like we do breathwork with older people. You want to be a little more careful if they have any contraindications. If they have like, if they're really sick, you would always want to get their doctor to kind of like make sure it's okay. So we never want to put onus on us or any of our facilitators. Always, if there's a concern, health wise, you want to just get like their MD to kind of give the green light. But even if they're sick, even I'm sure some of the stuff that Patrick shared as well is by improving their breathing mechanics and their, how long they can hold their breath, they can get to an ability where they can do breath work. Like
Mm.
anyone can improve on that. No matter how old you are, if you practice breathing properly, you will get better. Doesn't matter where you are right now. If you put some focus, effort, and practice, it'll get better. So, you know, there's some things to kind of like watch out for as far as contraindications, like epilepsy and pregnancy. You want to kind of avoid those, and a few other ones for some more serious conditions. But otherwise, it's like the most safest modality. They did a study over 11,000 people in a hospital. I think it was with holotropic breath work over like 10 years. And there was not one adverse event, only positive side effects, and nothing negative kind of came out of like 11,000 people who were studied through that. So very safe. Just don't do it in water. Don't do it while you're driving. Don't do it while you're trimming the branches at the top of your tree because you could get lightheaded. You could fall. You're probably more likely to get hurt getting up too quickly, being lightheaded, and falling back down and hurting yourself than you will from anything that's going to happen to breathing because our body's smart. You can't hold your breath and kill yourself. You hold too long, you're going to pass out. The body will automatically start breathing. So there's already some safety mechanisms
Mm.
that are implanted within us to keep us safe.
Mm. And
Yeah.
and
But
just
do it with your kids.
yeah, just I think like I mean it would be interesting you're getting all this education out that it would be say maybe a breathwork class at school now, like grade one you start and you learn about breathwork.
And like this is one of the biggest things that once I started realizing this, it's like this should be the first thing they teach kids. How to breathe, how to stay calm, how to relax your mind. So both for like for all the kids it's gonna help during tests, during exams. like how to breathe. And then for the emotional stuff, how to do these other breathwork practices. So we have some facilitators that go into schools and do this, 12, 13-year-olds, and the feedback is incredible, from both the parents, the teachers, and the kids. So my hope is to like introduce it to as many people as possible, and hopefully that creates some sort of change within individuals and hopefully in the world.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. Well done. So let's go through this exercise, and those that are listening, if you're not be driving, or you're in a sauna, or you're in a pool of water or anything like that, maybe you can just run through what you should be. You should be lying or sitting, or you can just run and start the program.
So
And
we're
then
just gonna do a few minutes. Yeah, we're just gonna do a few minutes. So, again, I wouldn't, it's only gonna be a few minutes, but either way, like epilepsy, pregnancy, we just advise against it, just to be extra precautious. Not driving, doing anything where if you were to get lightheaded or dizzy, you might pass out or hurt yourself or someone else. Okay, so those ones for sure. Otherwise, you can sit up straight or you can lay back and just relax. We're just gonna breathe in through our nose, take a deep breath into your nose, and try to just breathe into your diaphragm, then up into your chest. So it's a full yogic breath, and then exhale through your mouth. Okay, so again, into the nose, deep into the belly, up into the chest, and exhale. Okay, so I'm gonna play some music. Just follow the rhythms. We'll go through a few different rhythms. We start with earth, a little bit slower. We'll pick up the pace a little bit, and I'll guide you into a short meditation, and then we'll wrap. So it'll be like a 5-minute journey. Okay,
brilliant.
Here we go. Music. You hear the music? Okay, so just breathe with me. So in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, in, and out, 2, 3, full deep breaths. In, belly, chest, out, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. So just setting an intention. You can close your eyes. Just what's one thing that you want to change in your life? What's one thing you might want to be a little bit better at? One thing you might want to let go of? Whether it's a feeling, a thought, a belief. Just focus on that as you breathe. You're gonna pick it up here a little bit. So in, 2, out, 2. In, out, in, out. Try to keep that rhythm. So we call this the water breath. In for 2, out for 2. Just flowing like water. You might feel some changes in your body. Just closing your eyes. Just feel the air moving through you. Just feel the rhythm of your breath. Just connecting with your breath. Feeling as it moves in through your nose, out through your mouth. Start to let go of the mind, just being present. That's it. Keep breathing. In, out, in, out. Okay, I'm gonna pick it up one more time. Here we go. So in, out, just stick with it. Focus your awareness on your breath. More. Take a deep breath all the way and hold it at the top. Just hold it, close your eyes. You can make a humming note sound through your nose as you exhale and just relax your shoulders. 3, 2, 1. Just close your eyes. Just slowly come back to our breaths, closing your eyes. Slow inhale. Slow exhale. Just invite you to think of a moment of gratitude in your life. Spend some time in nature, your partner, something someone did for you. Just go to that moment as if it's happening right now. Who's there with you? And then just focus on that feeling of gratitude in your body. So your next inhale, breathing that feeling of gratitude into your heart. So imagine you're breathing that feeling into your chest. Just allow it to expand throughout your body. And just bring your awareness slowly back into your body. And you can slowly open your eyes if you're ready, or you can just stay there.
Wow, incredible.
Really just show. How you feeling, Steve?
Yeah, I just had this I get this lightheadedness and this sort of pressure that comes and goes in the front of my head here, and this sort of tingling in my head. It's I don't actually get the tingling in the hands, but my forehead here and just the different sensations are absolutely incredible.
Hmm. Awesome.
Mm.
Yeah, so something like that every day. If you just started your day with that 5 minute practice and bringing your awareness into gratitude, like that alone, if you can make that commitment to yourself to do that for like 30 days, like a guarantee you're gonna see a shift in your life. Guaranteed. If you can commit to it. That's the hard part. It's like just doing 5 minutes for 30 days in a row.
Mm.
But part of our facilitator program is when you sign up in the training, it's like you got to do breath work every single day for like the whole training. And then by the end of it, yeah, they got the training, but they've also seen it firsthand in their life, and that makes them a better facilitator because they have embodied, the power of breath work. So, challenge to all the listeners: just every day, if you can do it, even 1 minute, and focus your awareness and a little bit of gratitude, it's gonna start rewiring the brain, start bringing, a new outlook on life.
But it seems like the music is like sort of focuses you, and it's like a ritual almost, rather than doing it without the music. It sort of adds another dimension.
That's why we call it elemental rhythm, because we love the music, but you don't have to,
Yeah.
But you can, on our website, we have all tracks with guidance, music, everything on the app. You can just press play, and anywhere from 3 minute all the way to these 40, 50 minute journeys that you can do. And that's all on our website. We have a few courses on there about breathing mechanics. We try to make as many resources available, and we're actually looking at adding a whole new program in the next few months, which is more of a guided transformational journey. So like how to ask those questions to go deeper, how to really find those beliefs and how to reprogram them, so we can really see, a long lasting change. Because like you said, the reason why a lot of people only last for 2 weeks when they work out is because that's how much willpower most people have, because they're willing against their subconscious mind. The reason why, like, they have a belief underneath that's blocking them from continuing, and when they can unlock that belief and change it, then they can commit. Or they're just not getting a need met. Maybe they have a need for connection, that's why they really want to work out. So then going to the gym with friends or a workout group or jogging with people is going to be way more effective than them just like doing a diet or working out, because it actually meets some needs that they're looking to have met, because they want to work out maybe to meet someone, right? Like because they need connection, they're lacking connection or whatever. But yeah, but that's a whole nother conversation. But it kind of works hand in hand, that willpower alone is not enough. You might need to align and figure out why, it's so hard. Anyways,
Not just sort of behavior modification. This is the reason behind that, of who you
right,
want to become
exactly.
in this journey, and why you exist, in terms of what you're serving. And it sounds like you're just tapping into those deeper levels, which brings sustainable change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Do you
that's
see
that's
changes in, sorry, do you see changes in heart rate variability and sleep architecture? Does it help, these corporates that we're dealing with, executives, does it help REM sleep, or what have you seen it sort of change sleep architecture wise?
absolutely HRV for sure. Breathing will help improve HRV. Sleeping as well. We've seen that. I've seen that personally in my own kind of biohacking, metrics that I measure. Um, and there's different exercises that will help on both of those. And again, because there's the physical body, which a lot of these practices like building up your CO2 tolerance, your mechanics is going to help the nervous system. but the other one's the emotional release. So what's keeping the mind running on autopilot, the subconscious, is affecting your nervous system as well. So I think one without the other is not going to be as effective as doing both. So that inner work and the physiological work as well. So CO2 tolerance, better breathing mechanics, learning to hold your breath longer, it's going to help with a lot of that stuff. Having this emotional kind of awareness is definitely also going to help at the same time.
Brilliant. Give a message of hope, Gio, as we come to the end of the show. I've been in practice 25 years as a physician, 17 years doing functional medicine. I've seen chronic disease just increase at an astronomical rate. I've seen free testosterone drop by 50%, when I got adolescents and teenagers coming into, my rooms. I've just seen family and friends and patients that have become friends, develop cancers. And since the pandemic in the last 4 years, I've never needed more counseling and time with my therapist, my psychologist, just trying to externalize and not, absorb all the trauma and the chronic disease that's out there. But I think breathwork is a part of this, and I think you're doing incredible work. Just want to chat to you afterwards about the app, and because we do a lot of corporates here in South Africa and Africa. But give a message of hope out there, because it's in times like these that there's a lot of pain and suffering. The stats here in South Africa are like 85% of people just in five basic metrics are unhealthy, and there's a lot of despair, and there's a lot of discouragement with regards to disease worldwide.
Yeah, so my perspective on what's happening right now is it's more of like a higher level, like almost like a spiritual awakening. And this might sound woo-woo to people, but think about every movie you've ever watched where it's got to get right to that edge where it almost feels like we're at the end before the hero wakes up and realizes like actually I can change this, right? And most of the people I work with, they get pushed to that rock bottom before they transform their whole life. But they got to get faced with it first. Say, hey, like, do you really want to change? And everyone that said yes, I want to make that change, has changed their life. And maybe they didn't live 20 years longer, but they lived 5 years longer when they had like 1 year to live because they chose that. And and I think everything that's happening right now is getting people to wake up to their own power. COVID was huge for that in many ways, and I'm sure there's a lot of different ways you can talk about COVID. One thing I noticed was like people started thinking about their health, thinking about their death, and thinking about, hey, what am I doing right now? And I want to change. And it's going to take that kind of like realizing like, hey, like the only person who's going to save me is me, and I have the ability to do that. And we've given up so much of our power away to pharmaceutical companies and doctors and protein powders and everything else that's going to be this quick, easy fix, take a pill and do it. When the reality is the answer is in each and every one of us, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. And all you have to do is really just start setting that intention to want to change. Because once you bring your focus there, you're going to start seeing who's going to be there to guide you. Like the hero's journey. That teacher's right there waiting for you. But if you've never been looking for it, you're not going to see it. But if you're ready to change, you start doing some research, follow your curiosity, your intuition. You're going to end up on a podcast like this. You're going to hear the next guest that's going to spark some curiosity within you. And once you start following that, all these doors are going to open. That's how it happened for me and some of the people I talk to. It's like, I hope I'm not the final destination for anyone. I hope they come, I can teach them something, and they'll continue on their own unique journey that's going to be part of why they're here on this earth. Whether it's to heal, to get better, to do something amazing, like everyone's got their own story. But people got to realize that they have the power within them, and no one else can give it to them or take it away if they don't choose to give it up or give it away. So just you got to believe in yourself. That's it.
Brilliant.
Small steps, one step at a time.
Thank you for your courage and your calling, and just declare favor and blessing of you, that you would rise up on eagle's wings, that you would just really just soar with this incredible message and incredible. It's a service to the world. It's not a business. Yes, you're going to make money and you're going to, look after yourself and your family, but it's really about changing, transforming people's lives, and tapping into that subconscious through breathwork is something that we want to start doing more with patients and clients, and the community and tribe that we've built here in South Africa and Africa. So thank you for being part of the journey, and just declare much favor and blessing over you and your family.
Yeah, thank you so much. Same to you and your family, everything you do, Steve, and this beautiful podcast and all the amazing information you share. And we need more of it. So thank you for doing your part and being a part of it.